Colt, thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
We'll both end up in IA with this.
Guess we'll find out.
We won't say where we work.
You work?
It's a loose term.
Yeah.
It's a government job, you know? Grant funded.
It is.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Everyone enjoys.
Everyone hates me
That's true.
because they ain't me.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty sure about that. You know what pisses me off about, and we'll jump right into this, man.
Yeah. Let's hear it. I want to hear it. I'll
Patrol?
tell you
Okay. So fucking patrol,
Mhm.
right, will complain all day long
Yeah.
about how their life sucks
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do nothing to change it.
It's funny. You've told me this before, and I've taken that as a challenge, and I've been trying to be the driving force of making at least a couple people happier on patrol.
No, I think you can make your team happier. I just mean like individually speaking. It's like, dude.
Yeah.
If you don't like patrol, like, because there comes a certain time where you get exhausted, right?
Yeah.
And you start realizing, like, fuck, man, like, it's the same call, it's the same day, driving the same car.
Yeah. Or you're going to problems that really the government shouldn't have anything to do with.
Yeah.
But yet, you have to
like
go.
What?
Well, just going to your neighbor yells at you.
Yeah.
Or the dog is barking, and the dog's been barking for a couple hours. What am I going to do? Go sit in the neighborhood, listen? Yeah, the dog's barking. One or two things. The owner's not home, or the dog has a dog door and it can go in and out.
Yeah.
Not something I can do anything
Don't
about.
you think that's crazy that people have switched from calling like neighbors, like calling the neighbor, like, oh, I'll just call Carol. Carol, this is Beth. Your dogs are barking again.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're probably at work, but just want to let you know. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Like when they had landlines, right? In the yellow pages.
I wasn't around for landlines.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
It was a thing in upstate New York for me.
My grandparents had them.
Yeah.
Most of me growing up, I had a lot of the cordless. But I'd go to my grandparents and would have like 10, 12-foot cord, like running around trying to pull the phone off the wall.
With the bungee cord.
Yeah.
But then it switched to now people are calling cops, like you said, for things that cops really shouldn't be handling.
Yeah.
And, it's really unfortunate because it ties up emergency services.
Mm-hmm.
It stops us from being able to do traffic stops.
Yeah.
It stops us from, being more of a proactive force and getting in front of crime or crime that's passing through our community.
Yeah.
Right. Because the area in which that we both work, thankfully, doesn't have a lot of crime that's generated here.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of pass through. So we tie up a lot of loose ends for Aurora. We tie up a lot of loose ends for Denver, and all the other Denver metro area agencies.
Yeah.
Mostly because, for the most part, we're not tied up with crime that's happening here. We do have some free time, but I think we have, this is agency number 3 for me.
Okay.
And if I'm being quite candid, one of the things I've noticed is that whoever in the chain has decided that, well, we have free time, customer service, we should just go answer these calls. Because if we don't, then it's like, what are we really doing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting in an area waiting for a good traffic stop.
Yeah.
Like a speeder that's doing 15 plus, right? Or someone who blows a stop sign, or going out to like community events and like saying, hey, how are you? So not just like proactive as fighting crime, but proactive as like community relations too.
Yeah. Getting to know who you're working for.
Yeah. Yeah. And but that doesn't have numbers,
Yeah.
It generates a call for service, but it doesn't have like, oh, Beth is calling about the dogs again.
Yeah. It doesn't have that touch.
Yeah.
To whereas you might be dealing with 10, 15, 20 people if you're going to the community event.
Yeah.
Or you go to that call of the barking dog or the neighbors parking out in the public street. That's another one that you'll see a lot as a days or swings, parking complaints.
Yeah.
And you have to tell them, it's a public street. They can park there.
Yeah, I know.
And
I
that's
deal with.
one or two people.
Yeah.
Or you could go and make yourself be seen by the public and have a broader outreach.
Yeah. Every Wednesday, I go to a coffee shop that has special like individuals with IDD.
Mhm.
So like developmental delays, so Down syndrome, autism, whatever they might have. And so every Wednesday I go in because I have the time now. When I start my job, I go in there and I just talk with Debbie, the owner.
Is that because it's a grant funded position?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of follow up. You know, honestly, the nice thing about my job now is that the days, for the most part, are very laid out. I'm at the disposal of patrol if they need me, but a lot of times they don't need me. So, like the calls that patrol are going to are criminal in nature.
Yeah.
That's not my objective, is what I've been told. We provide resources to individuals experience homelessness.
Yeah.
And mostly because they don't want the navigators to be in a bad light, right?
Yeah.
Like, do people that are experiencing homelessness commit crimes? Yes.
Yes.
Are they most of the time petty?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
I don't know. A lot of those warrants are more or less the nuisance warrants. Like, hey, don't come back to our city, or you can go sit in the jail.
Yep.
And then they're like, all right, I'll come back in the winter, so I have somewhere warm to stay.
Exactly. How long can I be incarcerated? 10 days? Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Checks weather app.
On their
Gets on RTD, goes back up to Denver. Can you notify Denver that I'm on my way?
Or they'll get a hold of you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Hey, take me up here.
Yeah. So it is interesting. I do think. How long have you been in law enforcement now?
Started in 2016, so come on up on seven years post certified. Okay. Yeah, because I started as a civilian in 2016, and I got my cert or my post in 2017.
Okay.
And then worked kind of both the jail, and then I got out of the jail as soon as possible.
Using that cough button already.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, the reason why I sound stuffed up is because I have a sinus issue that if you are a service member, you should look into. It's called sinusitis or something like that. Sinusitis.
Yeah, the first one kind of like cyanide.
No, it's sinusitis. Sinusitis. It's the inflammation of the sinus cavities due to burn pits over in the Middle East. So for the longest time, I thought I was like, oh, when I get sick, I just end up with a sinus infection, and that's just my life.
Yeah, I would get that checked out too. I have to go
well, so like
for you.
I didn't realize, I didn't correlate it because when I got out of the military, I was in North Carolina. Shortly thereafter, moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
Right. I just thought it was a Colorado thing. I was like, oh, maybe it's just like extra dry here, so it's just like
thin air.
Yeah, there's no oxygen. I can't breathe. No, so then I finally, that PACT Act came out, and I was like, oh, I should probably get this checked out.
Yeah.
By an ENT, and lo and behold,
got some answers. It's not just Colorado.
Yeah. Well, it is weird. I think I was talking to you on the phone. It's weird when you get diagnosed from a doctor, and it's like you knew you had the problem, but that diagnosis just like
we're talking about that
my back stuff,
that timeline.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes real, because
Yeah.
it's like having that check engine light. If I just put it off, I don't take it somewhere, keep going, or you start hearing the noises. Like if I turn the radio up louder, I don't hear it.
Get the Sharpie out.
Mhm.
Cover up the check engine light. Yeah. Yeah, when the doctor told me, he's like, yeah, your spine is that of a 55-year-old, I was like, oh.
That hurts.
So what does that mean?
Pain.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you got 10 more years to enjoy this, and then we probably got to look at surgery. So
yeah,
it sucks, but
make the best of it. Good thing you're in a position where you might, you can, I would say, adjust so you're not hurting yourself more than you need to.
Yeah, I started taking stuff off my duty belt for sure. Got a drop leg holster now. Take the pressure away from my hip, bring it down to my leg a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Josh Anderson. Oh, you think you're all cool with the drop holster? I can show you that those are dumb.
I would not, if you're going to be on patrol, I would not use them all the time. It can inhibit you if you need to draw from a vehicle. And that's where I think rotate. Yeah.
So in the military, we trained because we most of the time wore the drop legs. So it's like, it's actually easier because your seatbelt's not in the way. So you actually just
Drive around with a seatbelt on.
Yes. I want that workers' comp if I get hit.
Yes.
Did I not tell you the time I got
that
T-boned?
was a joke.
That's a
I wear
joke
seatbelt.
because we know
Okay.
you're listening.
We wear seatbelts.
You're like my 2 listeners I get each video.
What is
Guaranteed.
Win. Keep it below 100.
Little do they know I can actually see their IP address, so I know who they are. I know who you are. But no, so a lot of times when we're shooting some from vehicles, you just like rotate your hip sideways and then draw, and you're completely fine.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice. So I mean, if you're not traditionally used to that,
yes.
you do switch to it. Make sure you're practicing with.
Yeah, and dude, that's with anything. And I kind of want to get into like because you're part of a regional SWAT team. And you started that how long ago?
Coming up on 3 years.
Okay. What did you do before? Well, let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
You got in at what age?
Turned 21 at the beginning of the academy. So
okay.
But if you want to go, how long have I been intertwined with law enforcement? I'm 3rd generation, so it's been in my family for a long time.
Yeah, I know where your dad works. Where'd your grandfather work?
Out in Iowa. He actually taught over in Scotland for a little bit too.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting. That's why you're so short.
Yeah,
little Irishman.
Yeah, yeah. No, so he, we don't have the best of a relationship there, but I just know that he was in law enforcement for a while. He worked in Iowa. He taught over across the pond, if you want to call it that, and then my dad started here in Colorado, and once I was like, I'm free, I moved away from Iowa, and I started as soon as I could within law enforcement. You got to be 21 to be post-certified. So I kind of joined in where I could be a civilian, and then just kind of transferred when I was able to go to the academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you do before law enforcement? Just kick it?
I went to college.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you finish your degree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, look at you. That's right on, man.
So eventually,
I think you're the first educated person I've had. Well, that's not true. Christy Payne had a master's.
Yeah.
But
not that high in education. Maybe one day.
But you are educated, and I'm very proud of you.
A little bit, yeah. My major was actually a lot harder than my minor. So it kind of changed. I kind of wanted to go into psychology because I knew I'd be going into law enforcement, and psychology plays a huge role in it. And not just for like how people think, but kind of how communities work, like the broken window theory, and just things that kind of go off of the psychology. I went to a private school in Iowa. Some people called it the Harvard of Iowa.
Oh.
And then I was dumb enough to follow a girl around for a little bit, but it paid for some of my school, so it kind of equaled out there too. And I went to a Quaker school in Wichita, Kansas. Went to
what?
Yeah, Friends University. It's a little
what?
Quaker. Yeah, yeah.
Are you a Quaker?
No, I'm not.
Aren't those the people that like sit there and like shake? They're like, oh, the power of Jesus.
No.
You sure about that?
Have you seen the oatmeal, Quaker oatmeal?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. That's the picture of a Quaker's. But I didn't have any part of it. I had all my religious classes done prior to that. I actually, in high school, I did a lot of my prereq classes.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of doing a trial thing. So I almost left high school with was it
associate's degree?
Yeah, associate's.
Yeah, 2 years.
Because I think my last year of high school, it was like all college classes.
Okay.
And it was all free. It was all paid through whatever program they were going through at the community college there. And then I did that 1 year at the private school in the middle of Pella, Iowa, where windows and doors are.
Were you out there? So your father was out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my parents were split up when I was at a young age.
Okay.
Lived in Iowa for 13 years.
Where in relation to Des Moines, or however you say
Des Moines.
Des Moines?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for the clarification.
You're
I sound like an idiot.
Yeah, a big dumb idiot.
Yeah. So where in relation is this area?
90 minutes southeast.
Okay.
Ottumwa, Iowa. You might have heard if you've watched MASH. One of the characters is from there.
No, I've got a sister-in-law and brother-in-law that live out there.
Okay.
But I think they're directly south, about 60 minutes south of
Yeah, I'm
Des
closer
Moines.
to the Missouri border. Like,
Okay.
you probably get to the Missouri a lot faster than going up through Des Moines.
Okay.
Depends on how fast you're going, and
Yeah.
it's all flat. So
I hate that place. It's up north is pretty.
yes,
It's rolling hills, trees.
down south.
Yeah.
It's
It's like Michigan. It's like the UP.
I haven't been to Michigan. I don't have the reference for it.
Yeah. The Upper Peninsula is pretty, but
Okay.
everything else
Yeah,
below that sucks.
the drive's not fun. I've been making that like driving 20 plus years, just back and forth, actual drive time.
Yeah.
But while I lived there, I came back and forth for holidays to visit my dad. And then once I graduated from high school, went to college, did the 1 year in Iowa.
So what was your end degree in? You said your minor was harder than your major. What was the major?
So I got in business management, and my minors were my major was in criminal justice, but my minor was in financial accounting.
Okay.
And business management.
Why didn't you go FBI?
That was the goal.
What happened?
I was still
They have a
working
height
on it.
requirement?
They do. And I'm right above it with my hair spiked up.
There you go.
I'm average size in Mongolia.
Do they really? Hold on. Let me modify this real quick.
They don't. I have no idea. But I know that is the end goal. Or that was my end goal at one point in time.
Was to do the FBI.
Yeah.
There we go. That's better.
Okay. What kind of change then is now I've got a family.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And unless you have specialized skills, like I'd say like a foreign language or anything to do with like
They're
cyber.
hiring prior law enforcement pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So it's not
It's a long
too
list.
late.
Well,
No, it's not.
I got like 10 years. Well, I guess their age requirement's 37, I think.
37 and a half.
I got a little less than 10 years now. So I'll get there.
Because you're how old now?
Just turned 29. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem that I have is if you go from where we work now to going federal, it's a pretty significant pay cut.
At least for the first couple of years.
Yeah.
There is one person I know that
Here, push that closer to you. Or
in a joint task force.
There you go.
And I mean, they have
For the
unlimited
Ravens?
overtime. No, it's I worked for Safe Streets, and now he's in the terrorism portion of it.
Oh.
But they have like unlimited overtime.
DHS.
So
Department of Homeland Security, not Department of Human Services. For clarification.
yeah, there might be some overlap depending on their clientele. But,
especially nowadays with the crisis going on at the border.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I just listened to it was Tucker Carlson and I forgot his name. Weinstein or something like that. One of the, not Brett. The other one.
Okay.
The scientist one. He's talking about how like most people come in for to El Salvador, I think, go through because they don't require visas, and then they go from there to Colombia up through Central America, and like it's chaos.
Yeah.
It's like walking over dead bodies and craziness. So,
a world that I cannot relate to. I can imagine it, but there's just
dude. Well, it's just crazy to me, man. Like, the migrants are seeing it now in Denver. There are no jobs here.
No.
They're
Unless
like, they're out in front of the Capitol saying, give us jobs. And we're like, we have nothing.
Yeah.
There's no manufacturing here.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Purdue, like the Purina
plant,
like the dog plant
mm-hmm.
in North Denver. But like, dude,
I've seen a lot of immigrants working for delivery services.
Like Grubhub?
Grubhub.
How do they drive?
Well, I've been pulling a lot of them over, so if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, I mean, they're not driving so bad that it's attracting. There's a lot of equipment violations more than anything. But a lot a lot of Venezuelans
Yeah.
in one of our particular districts. Like maybe 2 weeks ago.
I thought Grubhub and Uber Eats and stuff like that require a proper driver's license to get enrolled.
Well, do you think they're following those?
No, they're probably uploading some fake one
Or
using somebody else's.
Well, they're not using their cars. They're
It's
probably,
true. Yeah.
I would assume they have a sponsor of some sort that has 50, maybe 50 is a high number, but just say they have 50 cars. They're sponsoring 50 people, 20 people, or maybe they have rentals and these people are paying back. They, in sense, they could be indentured slaves.
Yeah.
But they don't know that. Maybe they don't give their passports, but they're like, hey, I'll take this car. I'll work for whatever service. I'll use your account. I'll deliver throughout all times of night. And they get whatever the percentages are, and they just are forever going to be working until they can find something that's more economically beneficial.
Yeah.
But the person that's sponsoring them, whether they have a legal job, they could, and that's how they are funding this side gig. But now they have this source of revenue that could be funding them, and they don't have to pay taxes on it because these other people are making the money, whatever it is. That's my theory.
The modern day slavery, it's so I went to an HBCU and studied the criminal justice system. Mm-hmm. And being part of an HBCU, just probably like being part of a religious college, you study religion. And there we studied American history when it has to do with minority races in America. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to look back and say, okay, slavery was bad. Very, very easy.
Yeah.
It was terrible conditions, everything else. I feel like we turn a blind eye to a lot of slavery that goes on today because we say, oh, well, love them or hate them. Andrew Tate explains this pretty well. You had slavery. We'll take a good situation, right? We won't include any of the abuse and stuff like that because there were certain plantations that were known as better plantations to be at. Mm-hmm. You have living quarters, you're fed, you're told to work. That's your life.
Yeah.
You get some free time you can spend on the plantation, but that's pretty much it. Slavery is abolished. Then what you have is, okay, well, I still need somebody to go pick this cotton and reap the harvest for my fields. Okay, I'll just pay him. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to build some houses. You're going to pay rent. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to pay you just enough to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll have a little left, but maybe. So yeah, you're living on your own. You're free. Here's your cash for work in the fields.
Yep.
Now you can go home, pay rent, eat, and not build a future.
Yeah.
So we implemented currency in between the labor process where I was providing you with food and shelter. Now you're saying, okay, that's illegal. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to make you work. I'm going to pay you the bare minimum to have food and shelter. And that's it.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, I feel like the very, very ultra wealthy do not want other people to be very ultra wealthy.
Yeah. I mean, you can jump down the conspiracy, and I mean conspiracies at this point, but
yeah,
what is it? Only a couple of families have like 80% of the wealth. There's a couple of families that pretty much own everything.
Yeah, I would argue probably more than 80% at this point. COVID really effed us up.
Yeah.
And what gets me too is like, so going to what slavery is today, it's like migrants come in. I am 100% for border patrol and closing down the border for the essence of shutting down the drugs, shutting down the human trafficking both ways out of the country and into the country, and then stopping like the human trafficking is modern day slavery, right?
Oh yeah.
And creating safe conditions for these individuals to eventually get into the United States. It's not ethnocentric based whatsoever. It's purely humanitarian.
Mhm.
And people that are like, well, just open the borders. They don't realize the repercussions that come with it.
Oh, they're starting to realize it now.
Yeah, New York City, they whoop the police officer's ass. They get released, no bond,
Mm-hmm.
flee the state and go to California.
Oh, they're already in California?
Yes. Isn't that fucking crazy?
That's insane. And that's...
You know what that tells me as a police officer? If I'm authorized to use lethal force, just use it. Like, there's going to be no repercussions whatsoever for these criminals that whoop my ass. If I'm on the ground and I've got 4 people whooping me,
Yeah.
dude.
Not only that, they're delivering illegal, like if they were in a sanctioned fight, they're delivering illegal blows because they can be lethal.
Yeah, if you're on the ground, it takes 1 kick to the head and you're done.
Yeah.
SBI, they kick you in the nuts and blow your testicles.
Yeah.
Lethal force is authorized if the threat of SBI or death is presented.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing is it tells me like I'm not going to risk my life.
You're a number. That's what you are.
Dude, what does that say to every police officer in New York?
Get out.
Yes.
I mean,
I thought Colorado was bad.
Yeah, the change with SB 217, a lot of that, I mean, it did change a lot. There are certain things that are no longer allowed. It does bring accountability in the sense that everyone's going to have cameras, which people...
I'm actually for that.
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it holds accountability for the subjects that you're encountering. It holds accountability for the officers, deputies, corrections now.
Yep.
There shouldn't be any questions about it. Now, what they do take out of it is the human factor. If you don't have your body camera rolling, it could be human factor or human error that you're in this high stress situation and you forget to double click the button. And if one of the Bluetooth systems that are fail safes that are in place don't work, you're automatically at fault and they think you're hiding something.
Yeah.
That is coming from people that don't truly understand what it is like to be in the job. But other things came out of it to where, we don't get the immunity, qualified immunity anymore.
Yeah.
That is to say you were doing things wrong intentionally. At least
the presumptive guilt is there.
Yeah.
You are presumed guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
And so like the qualified immunity used to be I was acting in good faith and I believed I was doing the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
And hindsight 2020, you were not.
Yeah. And that's not how we're judged.
Right. But it's how you're sued.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think more agencies will start doing it. They'll back their officers as long as they're doing the things correctly in the way that they're within policy, within the statutes of Colorado. And there was no ill intent.
Right.
Obviously the policies will never cover everything. There's just too many variables.
What are you talking about? We have like 4,563 different policies, Colt.
We do have policies on the different paints we have in the jail.
There you go.
We don't have to read them as we're on patrol, but in the jail, I signed that policy. How to properly store them, even though my job description had nothing to do with storing them. I didn't even ever see the paints, but it was there.
That gets me into another part of policy of like law enforcement work too, is like there's a lot of times where you're like, what are my chances of getting in trouble for this? Yeah, I'm not reading 17 pages right now.
Yeah.
Type, password, send. Yeah, I signed it.
You read it the first time and then you start getting updates to it.
Yeah, it's true.
The system we use, you can check out the updates. You can read the highlights, what changed. Oh, yeah, there was a misspelling. We changed that. So when someone else reads it, we don't look like idiots. Or they change some different wording or vocabulary because they put that through Grammarly and they're like, oh, this sounds a lot better. That's just kind of where some of those are. But yeah, we have an insane amount of policies. But as long as you know how to find them, most of the time, unless you're like in a do now, like,
well, and that's where that qualified immunity came in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is like, it's hard to think of something like right off the bat.
Well,
it's use of force. Really, use of force is going to be like your, if we're both ACT instructors, which is arrest controlled technique.
Yeah, defensive tactics.
Yeah, defensive tactics, which involves de-escalation,
which is
not actually defined in Senate Bill 217.
It's not, but it's also one of those. I don't know, what do you want to call it? Keywords. Everyone loves using it.
Yeah, it's like people experiencing homelessness. They're not homeless; they're just experiencing it.
I like to call them nomads.
I have a lot of people say they're transient. They're like, I'm just transient, dude. I'm like, cool. Do you have access to running water or heat? No. By HUD standards, you are experiencing homelessness. No, but back on like the use of force stuff, man. It's like, you've been doing this a while. I've been doing this a while. If we go on a call together, we're pretty dialed in. Yeah. Like, even though I've kind of pulled away from patrol, I help them out every now and then. Yeah, I'm allowed to, and I don't get yelled at.
Yeah. Balancing act.
It's a balancing act. I never know when I'm going to get in trouble. I just went to 2 calls yesterday, and I'm like pretty sure. That's
the fun thing about this. You just never know.
Yeah. That's why I go home and drink. You know what effed me up about this place? I won't say where we work. Every previous agency I worked for, they would notify you if you're part of an investigation. Unless it was a criminal investigation to like you selling in Durham. We had 3 officers involved in selling drugs out of the back of their patrol car. Obviously, you can't let them know, like, hey, you're under investigation right now, right? But
so you had some entrepreneurs, huh?
Oh yeah, really trying. Well, dude, you're making $42,000 a year after 3 years of working there. I qualified for like food stamps.
Well, you're not too far off from.
I mean, I'm about to like. I live in a pretty nice house now, but like based on taxes and stuff like that, I might have to move.
Yeah.
So anyway, every other place I was always informed, hey, you're part of an investigation. Yeah. This is the first place I've ever been to that they don't tell you anything. They tell you post facto. Yeah. They're like, hey, you were part of an investigation and you've been cleared. Yeah. And then you ask like, hey, well, what happened? What was the allegation? It's not that important. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not gonna. I'm not huge in the IA.
Yeah.
You know, that could be something that they could change. Maybe they do it so their people aren't stressed out. Granted, if they need to know about it, they should know about it.
Yeah, to stop behavior.
Yeah, exactly. If it's a point where, say, it's just a complaint that this officer, they're not.
Bad.
Yeah. Something that's continuous. They keep on getting it. Okay, say something about. But if it's some off the wall complaint that, hey, this deputy last night was following me too close, and I couldn't get over. The lights were too bright, and they're just really right on me. So I got over and flipped them off. It doesn't matter that deputy knows that someone complained on them for following them too close because they're trying to do something else. No.
Well, dude, I drive a completely unmarked car right now.
Well, you wouldn't know,
no, the amount of people that tailgate me, because I'll be like transporting somebody from like X area. I almost said where we were. X area down to another city per the request, per resources available and stuff. And people will come right up on me, dude.
Do you have cruise lights on that thing?
They'll be riding my ass. And I'm just sitting there. The one thing I will always write people a ticket for is following too closely.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to start road rage. So I'm sitting there, I'm driving. I normally look in my mirror and I'm like,
when do you think we'll get a road rage unit? Our traffic team is building up.
I think we need an interdiction unit first.
That's probably on the way. But I think since COVID...
No. I'm saying a full-fledged interdiction unit.
Yeah. I think we work in an area where that could be applicable. We have
we have a major highway.
We have
cuts right through.
A couple major highways.
Yep.
One's obviously more traveled, but there are a couple other ones that are under the radar.
Oh, yeah.
I work those, and I know for a fact that they're under the radar.
Yes.
For a fact.
Well, it's because you're one person for how many square miles? A lot,
depending on where you're at. You might get another agency that
you get in a fight. I need backup. Mock Jesus, dude's not getting there for like 15 minutes.
Responding mock Jesus from one of those places to another took me about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
It's not a good experience, dude.
Yeah, I was responding to it was almost a robbery. We found a gun in the trash can, and they'd changed as they bounced out because
nice.
The deputy came up on the other person. They left one of the people in the car, and he let him up. And the store had windows up top, and they saw the red and blues because it was kind of at night.
Is this a storage unit one?
No, this was at a Walgreens.
Oh, okay.
And they bounced and went into one of the open areas that was behind it. We didn't locate them that night, but that was a long drive, and I should not have been like the second person on scene there. But it was just one of those busy times where I was at the very end of our county driving to somewhere up middle north of it.
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes running hot. My brakes were non-existent at the end of that.
Yeah, brake fade is one of the scariest moments I've had in law enforcement. Like people think like, oh, kicking. Like I've been part of entry teams and stuff like that in Durham and stuff, and I'd like to pick your brain on that, but
it's fun.
Entry. That's fun. Brake fade. That's a butt pucker because you press the brake and it goes to the floor. You're like, ooh, I gotta pump them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like you pump them and you still feel your car like
you're on ice.
Yeah.
Did you ever learn to drive on country roads?
Yep. Yeah.
So part of living in Iowa during the driver's ed test, they take you out to a country road and they're like, all right, go to 60 miles an hour and slam on your brakes. And you're like, what? Like, yeah, do it. I'm like, okay. And they just start fishtailing like, all right, this is how you're going to correct it. I learned that at 14.
Yeah.
Because in Iowa, you can drive tractors to school.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Where I lived wasn't practical, but the next 2 towns over, there was like, I don't know, during like their Spirit Week, all the seniors would drive their John Deere.
Oh, hell yeah, brother.
School. It was pretty funny.
Cue the she thinks my tractor's sexy.
Yeah. I wish I could have partaken in that, but where I was living would not have been applicable.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you don't think about it.
No, you don't.
You forget about it.
I always make it a point when I'm driving code to put good music on, because I'm like, if I crash, I want the IA investigator to laugh a little bit.
I always thought like when I get in pursuit, I want dun 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 dun. But like first thing, like I can hear the sirens, and then like my radio, whether it's on loud or not, I can't hear it.
See, I don't use my in-car. It drives me nuts. Outside of this, it drives me nuts because there's more of a delay. So I key up and I'm talking and I hear myself talking, and it literally causes my brain to like, you could see me in the car when I do it from time to time, and I'm like,
shorten out.
Yeah, it's like smoke starts coming out of my ears and everything. So I literally use my lapel mic so much so that a dispatcher has called me one day and said, "Hey, are you out of your car?" I was like, "No." Because they can see the difference between the car unit and the pack set. So I'm like, no. She's like, oh. You're the only one that uses your lapel mic. And I was like, well, from an early age. So in Durham, we had side channels that we called them talk arounds. Okay. And we would just chat with each other. It's it's kind of like how we. Channel. Well, no. It's kind of like the culture of like group chat or group calls late at night. Yeah. Well, you know how you call your team and like you're all just. Like, and most of the time it's silent. Like everybody's just quiet, like scrolling through Instagrams or something. Yeah. It's kind of like that, but a radio.
Yeah.
So we'd sit there, like our main would be on our lapel and our side channels would be on the radio. So if we were trying to like hunt for stuff and things like that, we'd be like, hey, silver Honda head northbound on 85. Okay. We had an 85 in Durham. And then somebody would key up, be like, yep, I just see it. I'm going to get behind it. Like, copy. I'm up north if it runs. Okay. And then like it was perfect. It was beautiful. And then we would finally go to Maine and be like, hey, we got traffic. We're refusing to stop. We're in pursuit. Okay. And we chased it.
And that was on your lapel mic?
Yeah, that was. And then number 2. So dispatch would just be like, and they would listen to the talk around channels from time to time. That way they kind of knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But we were so high tempo in Durham as far as like calls, robberies, gunshots, like everything violent.
Yeah.
That it wasn't, we didn't have time,
You probably weren't scanning other agencies either.
Dude, we were on survival mode.
Yeah. See, that's why I use the radio in my car, so I can scan. I know it's coming to us.
I don't scan, bro.
Well, we're gonna graveyards, kind of have to, otherwise you're just like kind of.
Yeah, that's true. I've actually used that for my defense because somebody told me like, hey, why'd you get involved with that? And I was like, I had no clue. They're like, you didn't listen to so and so, and I'm like, no. You don't scan? I'm like, no, you can ask my navigator that's in the car with me. We sit in silence. Yeah. The only thing I hear is what's in my earpiece. That is it.
Yeah, I've had to defend Kyle on that too.
It's crazy.
Because he had an incident like that, but he was on his way out.
Oh, he told me about this.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple of those people from that agency. I'm like, hey, he was on his way home. His radio wasn't going. And,
they get so butthurt, dude.
Well, you know why? Just caught the bad guy.
That's what we fucking do, bro. That's why I came to this agency. I wish I could say the agency right now for the listeners, because you need to come here. If you are a police officer, listen to me. If you're a police officer and you want to fight crime, you need to come to our agency.
I'm sure you can reach out.
Direct message. Shoot me a message. I'm glad. I'll get you in contact with a recruiter.
Good guy. I like our recruiter. He's a good guy.
And gal.
And gal.
Jackie? Yeah. Jackie's cool.
Actually worked with Jackie in the jail.
She threw me off the first time I talked to her. I was like, are you allowed to work here? She has an accent an accent for people listening in. Yeah. But she is an American citizen. It was a joke.
She worked out of country, though. She told me some of her stories.
Yeah.
When she came here, I was like, oh, shit.
This is like retirement, dude. I'm not going to lie. Like, this agency is awesome because you can get involved with what you want to, but at the same time,
it is a retirement agency for other people.
Bro.
They're sitting back with their, I don't know, pensions or whatever else they got, and then this is just a second paycheck for them.
Dude, I remember when I transferred over here, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I've ever been more relaxed in my entire life. She's like, really? I was like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've been shot at in over 4 years now. And she's like, yeah, that's good. I didn't know you were shot at. And I was like, oh, yeah, I should probably
that's an inside voice coming out that you should, if you're going to keep that to yourself. Just say, just feel relaxed.
Yeah. She's more relaxed now. This is a great agency to be at. But we do catch shit, dude. We
most of it's not from here, though.
No.
Like you said, a lot of the crime is passed through.
Yeah. But it's good, man, because they're coming down here to commit more crime.
Yeah.
And they can't. Or coming up, depending on where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So I love living here. I love being a part of this agency. And truly, like, when I left Aurora and came here, it was because I felt like, bro, I'll never forget this. I was working in District 1 in Aurora, and I was talking to my FTO. And granted, at this point in my career, I've already had 5.5 years of experience. I've already gone on a couple military deployments and stuff like that. So I'm like,
so you're seasoned.
I'm not a dumbass. Like, I was working, like, when I came here and I worked with David Stark, like, he was the last podcast episode that I'm getting ready to edit. Yeah. We were talking, man. Like, he told me, he's like, when we were riding together, it was like we were a 2-man unit.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I really had to teach you the computer system, but that's it, man.
As an FTO, I can appreciate that as well.
It's fun.
It is nice when you get someone that's squared away and you can just work.
Yeah. But then, so when I was in Aurora and I was like, hey, do you want to just walk down Colfax and just make citizen contacts? They're like, we're kind of on protest, bro. I'm like, what?
They got a blue flu situation going on?
They're like, the current administration doesn't back us enough. So we're on protest. I'm like, the fuck does that mean? We're not really doing anything proactive. We're just responding to calls, answering calls, writing the reports.
Is this how your FTO talked? Or is that
it's how one of them talked.
Okay.
We're writing reports. And that's all we're doing. I'm like, okay. I'm getting out of the car.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
Are you going to join me? I guess I got to watch out for your safety. Awesome, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
and they use Koga
Oh, yeah.
as their arrest control technique, which was the stupidest.
Yeah, but Koga or nothing. If you were taught Koga, if you learned Koga,
Yeah.
it's the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, dude.
You know how many people have come through our system?
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's a better system out there, like, there's not one better
Crazy
than another.
jiu-jitsu, baby.
But
Jiu-jitsu is
if you hear
really good.
someone that had Koga experience, they are the ones that come out and tell you, "Oh, Koga's better." No one else.
let me hold your hand real quick. Give me your hand. No,
This
your
one?
other hand.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, oh, you're gonna listen to me now, aren't you? I've got you finger flexed.
You're gonna have to take me on a date first.
You can't get out of this. I swear to God, it's all about finger flexes and like magical fairy dust, dude.
Yeah.
Pixie dust everywhere.
Yeah.
Although there is did I show you the Koga handshake? Did I ever tell you about
Is
this?
this a secret handshake?
It's a move that you can place people into a bent wrist, like a finger flexed wrist extension.
Okay.
And so my FTO, one of my FTOs, that didn't sound like this. We're gonna keep you safe, bro. He was a normal dude.
Okay.
He actually choked somebody out and killed him.
Before 217?
Maybe during,
In the process,
but
of
it
the
was
drafting?
it was justified. It was 100% justified.
I think even with 217, there's probably justified. There's just nobody that wants to be the guinea pig to find
the guinea
out.
pig. Yeah.
Because I've talked to our use of force lead.
Yeah.
I've talked to.
We're talking about chokeholds. So for people
yeah.
to fill them in, because there's SB 217 here in Colorado, which is a Senate bill that was passed by the state, it prohibited rear naked chokes.
Or an LVNR that has nothing to do with the airway. It's the blood. But I've even talked with, at the time it was an IA, and they were in talks with our lawyer, and they're like,
yeah,
while they wouldn't advise it, if it were under certain circumstances, they would back us. But again, no one wants to find out those certain circumstances, and they don't want to be the first one to be sued by it.
Dude, wouldn't it be some shit though? Is like, I'm authorized in using lethal force, and I do this correctly, and I save their fucking life.
They're going to sue you to save their lives. Yeah. You're authorized to go up and do a contact shot, but instead, like, one, I don't want to get all that all over me. I don't want to burn that image into my head, someone else's head, and I don't want this guy or gal to lose their lives or for their family.
Right. Well, say it's you and I, right? And we're wrestling around with this dude, and he's pulling a gun. You secure the gun. You say, hey, he's reaching for his gun. I have his back. I just go up, get the rear naked or the LVNR, and squeeze, goes limp, let go. Roll him over, handcuff, recovery position, check pulse, chest, ABC, airway, blood, circulation, or airway, breathing, circulation.
But we know
and then boom, so-and-so's alive. Holy shit.
And then boom, Hall's getting sued.
Lavelle and Hall, officers of the year. JK, we're
Sued.
on fucking trial.
Yep.
We're let go.
I don't know.
And meanwhile, we're hoping to make money off this fucking podcast.
I don't know if we'd be let go. Maybe you're not working patrol. They'd find somewhere deep in the dungeon to put us if we're cleared legally.
Yeah, making six figures. I remember in Aurora, your naughty spot was working the impound lot.
Well, over the last
processing everything.
Last couple of years,
what's our naughty spot?
It's kind of changed because it was the jail, and it was broadly known as the jail. But as things have changed, the jail is like, we don't want your
new command staff.
We do not want your mess ups.
Oh, I know.
Send them somewhere else.
Dude,
correct it.
Because of the leadership down in the jail, I've contemplated. I've never worked the jail a day in my life. I've contemplated going to the jail.
I have buddies that work down there, and they over the last 2 years, when the change kind of started happening, night and day difference.
Yeah.
Like they have command that, if they say one thing, but a valid counterpoint's brought up, they'll be like, okay, we'll pause on this. We'll listen to you. If you can bring the facts or the data, and it supports your side, they're like, okay.
How crazy is that? How crazy is that we work in a profession where we do have to make split decisions at a blink of an eye? Someone's reaching for a gun, I've got to shoot them. Like I've got zero time. I feel like I have a lieutenant from Arapahoe that's going to be joining us on this podcast at some point, and I can't wait to talk to him about this. I feel like that instantaneous decision making habit that we fall into on patrol continues through your career, when in actuality, drum roll, folks, you don't have to make a split decision.
Yeah.
You can go,
yeah.
Okay.
Especially when you're pulled away from it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Even if it's, I'm not talking like a call. Like a call.
Yeah. When you're making
a call, basically you get there, you're like, all right, scene's safe.
Yeah.
Parties are separated.
Yeah.
Let me get my law book out. What did you say happened? It doesn't meet this crime. I'm sorry.
It's actually under LexisNexis. I pull my iPhone.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Look at it.
I'm actually working on an AI right now that you can type. You'll type the report up, and it'll pull key facts from your report, and it will tell you what crime is applicable.
As long as the people know what elements of the crime that they need
to articulate. But this is the thing. You should be doing that already in your report.
Well, yeah.
So I'm trying. There's two folds. I'm trying to get it involved with reports, but I'm also trying to work with like audio. But the audio for like the body cameras that we use is kind of trash.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever looked at like the dialogue on the right side. It's fucking garbage.
You know what it's really good at picking up? Cuss words. Any profanity, it picks up phenomenally.
Yeah. Sorry, I was making sure Richard over there is recording still.
Yeah, looks like it. Thanks, Dick.
That's why we call him Richard. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I am interested in talking to the lieutenant, and we're going to talk about leadership and everything else like that, especially like developing law enforcement. But I do think there's that plagues us is we are so used to making very fast decisions, and we're good at it.
Yeah. It just carries through. I never actually thought about that, to be honest. And I get like I'm not in any position that I have to make like
yet
changing or like admin changing decisions.
Sure.
So I don't know what the stress is for that. Like,
well, it's a lawsuit. I can tell you. Like, so I when I was in the Air Force, I worked with policies and stuff like that and ROIs, so rules of engagement.
Yeah.
Or ROE, sorry. And some of that is lawsuit and legal repercussions from other countries. Yeah. When I was in the military, but it's lawsuits.
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's this realization, like, what's the probability? It's probability versus like benefit of waiting.
Yeah.
So if we pause and say, okay, let's breathe for a minute. Let's have a think group where we pull in line level staff. We basically say, hey, let's talk about this real quick. We're trying to come up with a new policy and procedure. Let's talk about it. We're going to make our decision, but we want your input.
Which, as being a paramilitary organization, even I would say throughout the U.S., like that probably doesn't happen very often.
Yet.
I know.
I'm going to say this podcast episode is going to be the power of yet.
Yeah.
Because we're both very young in our careers, and I think we both have very long in our careers ahead of us.
Yes. Well, our administration, there are people in our administration now that are doing that.
Yeah.
We have meetings with the
chiefs. Yeah. Which is phenomenal.
And that circumvents the misconception or the miscommunication that's going from line level to supervisors to lieutenants and captains, that whatever the chain of command is. Now they're hearing it directly from the line staff. And I've heard that there are times where like, oh, we didn't know that. We didn't know that this directive was put into place, or this is your procedure. And, you know, honestly, I'd like to see them not just come to our briefings, but actually go on some rides through every shift so they can see how the administrative stuff that we have to do has changed, because it's different. It 100% is different. I've had supervisors that have been sergeants for 8 months, and they forget how to use some of our main technical stuff that we have to do to get through our day.
Yep. Like,
But
oh,
yet
you don't
we get
remember
add
how
more
to
stuff
you don't remember how to log into this camera system
or tickets.
or tickets. Although that's a side tangent. We'll chat offline. I had an issue yesterday to drive me up a wall. And IT was like, no, we can't really fix it right now. And I'm like, I need to report who I contact by law.
Yeah.
And I can't.
Yeah.
So it's but what would you I know my personal views of the current morale. And I know morale is different at each agency and for different reasons,
Yeah.
right? The best way I explain it to people is like switching from one agency to another. The grass is greener in certain areas.
Yeah.
You look over the fence, you go, oh, at a quick glance, it's greener. But
Do you know
get
where that
over
saying came from?
what?
The grass is always greener on the other side. Do you know where that came from?
Is it Ireland and the UK?
No.
What?
So the way it was explained to me is, cows and horses always want to eat the grass that's always on the other side, right?
Oh,
Well, I worked for a longhorn ranch when I was younger.
a little
And
cowboy.
yeah, just a little bit. And there were some like world champion longhorn. But this was when they kind of started, and they were always telling me like the grass is greener on the other side. And they explained to me that cows want to eat the grass that's on the other side. And sometimes it's alfalfa, and alfalfa is usually pretty green.
Yeah.
Well, that fucks up the cow's stomach and can kill them. So when they say the grass isn't always greener on the other side, sometimes implies like, hey, just because it's green doesn't mean it's not like
Poisonous
or like toxic in some way where, yeah, it might look good from this side, but once you get in it, you could be jumping into a shithole.
No shit.
Yeah. So like when I hear that, it makes me laugh because I wonder how many people actually kind of know where that came from or like why that's said. And it's true. Like I've talked to several people, as we all do. Being an FTO, you get to talk to everyone that's coming from other places, or if they're brand new. And they're like, oh, this is how I did it at my agency. This is how, like, okay, I'm glad that that's how you did it at your other agency. You are at this agency. This is how we do it here. I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong. I'm always open up to hearing what they're saying. Cause if it actually is more efficient, then I'll start doing it. I'll start implementing it. But there are times where what they did at that other agency it doesn't work fundamentally because it's a different place.
Right.
So when I hear grass is greener, that's what I think is like, yeah, it can look green, but it could also be like very poisonous to you.
Yeah. Or detrimental to morale, or like a lot of things. But what I tell people is, say you're looking at one area, and we'll just say administrative support.
Mm-hmm.
And in your current yard, it's a piss spot, meaning a dog has pissed in that spot and killed all the green grass.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else, pretty nice. Like, oh, look over here at camaraderie. Oh, that's pretty green. Oh, look over here at salary. Oh, that's pretty green too. Let's look over here at career prospects and special assignment. That's pretty green.
Yeah.
But right here is a piss spot.
Yeah.
You look over the fence, you're like,
yeah,
there's not a piss spot there. So you go over.
Or you don't know what the piss spot actually looks like.
Exactly. So you go over there and you're like, oh, camaraderie, that's a piss spot now.
Yeah.
Fuck. Did I just change administration for camaraderie? I would rather have bros that I'd be at bros and gals that I'd be happy to hang out with.
Yeah, because you can say you do have a morale issue because of admin.
Right.
You can come together as a team and you can be like, hey, we're going to bond over how bad we can perceive this is, right?
It's called shared trauma.
Exactly. And you know what? Perception is all of what we see, right? It's not reality until it's shared. If we all share the same reality of our same perception that we're in a bad place through whatever it is, then that's where you build like, hey, I will stick this out with you, and we'll get through this. Like,
you know what bothers me though is like, I'm sitting there and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, it kind of walks like a duck. Yeah, it kind of looks like a duck. Definitely quacks like a duck. Hey, Colt, is that kind of a duck to you? And you're like, yeah, it kind of walks like a duck, kind of quacks like a duck. By squint, it looks like a duck. I'm like, oh, okay, it's a fucking duck.
Yeah.
Then we go to admin. Yeah, duck. There you go. Then we go to admin. We're like, hey, this is a duck. And they're like, no.
Yeah, they don't see it.
Not a duck. And you're like sitting there, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
What, does he got some dirt on you or something?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a fucking duck.
Yeah.
That's a metaphor.
Yeah, with where things are, nothing's ever going to be perfect.
No,
We're always, cops like to bitch and moan. They hate change.
What?
And every time something changes, they never want to adapt to it. And I think that's, other than, we see a lot of terrible things that's detrimental to our health.
Oh, yeah.
Why let simple changes that are really outside our control at the time? Like, if there's enough voices to it, there might be change. As long as admin's willing to listen, and as long as it's a valid point. But sometimes we just bitch so much that there's this screen that is just shit, right? And you can't see past that. I'm not saying all the changes that happen are great, but you have to be able to work with some of it.
I think it's a communication problem.
Oh, 100%.
Like, our generation wants to know the why.
Yeah.
Why? Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why the fuck are we changing this process? I don't want to change this process. Why are we doing this?
But you know where that falls an issue? Paramilitary. You're not supposed to ask why. You're supposed to just
can ask. But here's the problem. We have time.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime, and this was when I was a staff sergeant in the military. I told all my troops this. I said, I want you to pause me if you feel like I'm going too fast.
Yeah.
If I tell you we don't have time,
mm-hmm.
that's when I need you to look at me and go, Roger that, Sarge, and just go.
Yeah.
But if you think we have time and you say, why are we doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit there and go, let me think about that, and I'll get back with you. Because I might not know the why. I might just be being told by a master sergeant to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, my job is to explain the why. And if I can't explain the why, my job is to motivate you.
Yeah.
Not to just say, shut the fuck up, color in the lines, go do it.
Yeah. I feel like I play a lot of interpreter. Not with my current team, but 2 years ago, if you remember what team I was on.
Yes.
That's when we worked together on that team.
Yeah. Misery loves company.
Yes. There were some people that were experiencing some hardships with the supervisors. One of the supervisors I got along with that like no one got along with.
Yeah.
But everyone went to that supervisor because they could they got along with him better than it was the
other one.
Yeah. The lesser of evils, if you want to call it that. And I became the mediator / interpreter because the communication style wasn't the greatest.
Yeah.
And they were in that spot where like, oh, fuck this, fuck that. He's just rejecting these reports because he doesn't like me. He's not explaining this. He's not explaining that. And a lot of the time and because I've had conversations with this person, they're trying to keep you out of court. And if you don't sound like an idiot, you're less likely to go to court. Expect like in DUIs, and DVs. Those are like 90% chance you're going to go unless there's like on camera something is happening, right? And very little do the plea deals happen because the DA's office, those are the ones.
Can't. Yeah.
The DUIs, they want to prosecute on those all the way.
Yeah.
The DVs, their hands are a little tight on that, right? Because it's the severity of the crime.
It's a victim's rights.
Correct.
It's a VR crime.
So more than likely, you're going to court on those regardless. But if you have a well-written report that details everything and you don't write it like you're in kindergarten, and you have all these misspellings or typos, you're using the wrong word, or it just sounds discombobulated, right? It doesn't flow.
Yeah.
You're 100% chance of not only going to that, but being called out. And depending on who the lawyer is, they are going to make you look like garbage. Yeah. And not only will that happen there, that's going to how cops talk. I'm sure the judges and the DAs talk, and either on the defense side or the attorney side, like they're going to know you are your report.
Yes.
So we have supervisors that don't really explain that, and they just keep on kicking these things back. And these we're not.
You know what I love about court?
What's that?
It's an act.
Yeah, it is.
Like I love sitting there going, like I'm talking, pretend you're the defense attorney and you're like saying something, right? And I look at you and I go, Your Honor, may I review my report, please? And the judge goes, yes, Deputy so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
I just go, okay.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I read. Attorney so-and-so, can you repeat the question?
And then they'll ask you something like, well, did you or did you not?
Yeah, and
You're
then,
like,
yep.
you're like, I just told you no. And,
Your Honor, may I recite my report, please?
and they'll be like, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Attorney, I think I can answer your question based on my report. Did you get a copy of my report?
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at you and they're like, this motherfucker.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been, like when I came in, like I said,
Yeah.
It was a weird time because when I would have started going to courts, COVID hit. So
yeah, that's right.
a lot of my stuff, like a lot of my, I would say cases are either still kind of working their way through the process.
Yeah.
Or they got their pleas. And like, I think like I had this really, really bad DV case that, I went for the prelims and I got there and like, yeah, you probably won't ever see this because the guy got deported.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's in Venezuela somewhere. That was a terrible, terrible DV. That was like one of the ones I walked up on and like you could tell she was tuned up. But that's why these people, like they could not communicate with their supervisor just about simple reports and just getting kicked back. And it wasn't just like once or twice, but because he would sit there meticulously and go through it, it was like 4 or 5 times. And they were like, did you guys ever like think about using Microsoft to read back to your reports?
Dude, you know the most unhinged thing I do, or like I observed.
What's that?
When I like go car to car with people, when they type their reports in our report writing system and they don't use Word, I literally say, because so people listening in, we do not have, there's no spell check, there's no grammar, nothing. So these people are just typing and they're either so fucking smart that they don't misspell anything and their grammar is literally immaculate.
They're using a typewriter essentially.
And they're just sitting there like,
I
won't say who, but actually I will. Ricky Romero, fucking sitting there typing. I literally called him out. I looked over at him. I'm like, are you just typing directly into the report system?
I trained him and I was like, bro, use
Did
Word.
you see it too?
Yeah, I was like
100%.
I was like
100%.
Please use Word. You're gonna
it gives
save
me
yourself
anxiety.
Time, and you're gonna save yourself time.
It gives me anxiety.
No,
I literally looked over at him
good.
and I was like, you're stressing me out.
Yeah. Not only do I use Word, I use Grammarly. Like,
yes.
I pay with my own money to use Grammarly. And do you know how many reports I get kicked back for grammar or word misspellings? 0. I might get kicked back for some data input that either didn't pop because of the, like when you do the error check, it doesn't pull up. And then when you submit it, it's like, oh, you didn't do this.
Well, it's like employer information. It's like, okay.
Everyone kind of like goes through that. But I can't tell you the last time I've actually had a report kicked back for spelling, grammar.
Yeah.
I had one supervisor before I had any of that would send me back a report because I didn't put the commas in the right place.
I got in an argument, and I think it might have been with the same supervisor, but I sent them so I'm kind of an ass. So if you tell me I'm wrong and I know I'm right, I'll say, oh, interesting.
I've never seen that.
I'll literally say, oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, can I show you something? And most of the time they're like, yes, like you can, like whatever you want to show me. I got in an argument over the Oxford comma.
I'm almost positive it'd probably be the same because I've never had another. We had, what is that song? It would be like, comma, comma, comma. What sings that? But that'd be the song.
Comma,
yeah. So you get the report back and it's just commas. Yeah. And you're like, all right, cue the song, boys, because this is all it is. It's just the commas. And everybody was like, God damn it, fucking forgot the commas. Yeah. And you go through, I'm like, well, I don't know where they go, but if he's going to help me put them in there, because he'll go through and he'll put it right through they are.
My problem is the Oxford comma is an additional comma that's not normally used in American English, but it's used in proper English.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started doing this. Maybe it was like a teacher in upstate New York that I had that was like,
do you do double spaces too?
No, that is something I don't do.
Well, that's also starting to fade out too.
Yeah. But I do adhere to the strict rule of the Oxford comma. And I use semicolons a lot too.
Oh, I only use that because grammar is like, oh, you want to use this? I'm like,
yes, please.
As long as that's correct. Sure.
Does it make me look more smart?
And you know what?
I'm gonna start wearing glasses
I
everywhere.
I probably shouldn't have said I use Grammarly because now everyone's going to know. That's why my reports look a little better than,
Yeah.
average. But like,
God, La Velle's just
m-
freaking smart.
maybe they'll give me a stipend for Grammarly. Or maybe
I think you can
Grammarly
write it
will-
off as taxes.
Maybe.
No, we are not sponsored nor endorsed by Grammarly.
But hey, if you
There
want to
you
help us
go.
out,
Just like a little, if you're looking for a
I'm
sponsor,
sure we can get the office to join in because I
looking
know
for
they,
a sponsor,
they
hit
do
up the
have
Something Nothing Everything podcast.
they have a business account, so they can use more than one person on it. Just saying.
Yeah, just like Word.
Yeah.
So I want to jump into, are you allowed to talk about some of the SWAT stuff you do?
Yeah, if there's things that we can't talk about, we'll just skip over them.
Okay. We'll just touch on it basically.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to go as an operator?
As a SWAT cop? Yeah.
As a SWAT operator. What does SWAT stand for?
Special Weapons and Tactics Team. Yeah.
SWAT.
Yeah.
T?
No, I mean team. Yeah. Special Weapons and Tactics.
Yeah.
Team. SWAT team. There's a
But what
silent
would-
T, just like my name.
but what-
COLT.
I misspelled
T.
your name, by the way. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
I'll make sure I get it right in the future.
My name's Ron Burgundy. Back to the question.
Anchorman joke.
What made me want to join?
Yeah.
Well, it all started when I was 8 years old. I was like,
shit.
I want to be on SWAT. And I'd run around with airsoft guns, Nerf guns.
But what motivated that?
Probably just like in my family. Just being that third generation, it's like I want to do all of the cool stuff, right?
Was your dad on SWAT?
He was.
I met your
commander.
dad.
Yeah, he was a commander over it. He was never in the operations as a member,
Not as an operator.
as a SWAT cop, but he did oversee his department over it.
So some guys call themselves operators. So I
I'm
know
sure.
I know in Durham they were SWAT operators.
Yeah.
And I know I want to pick your brain. Why are you so hesitant to say operators? Is it because the tempo is not there?
No, because I look at the operators as being like SEAL team spec level. Like they do that for their living. That's like everyday thing. That's what they're doing. They're always doing it. And that's kind of what they do. As a SWAT cop, my primary job is I'm a cop and I'm a part-time.
Being on a regional team.
Yeah. And we're part-time, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of great people on the team. There's a lot of great minds. They've made me a better cop through tactics, confidence, leadership, and taking over certain incidents that I go to. And then when, like, probably by far the safest thing as being a cop is being on the SWAT team, right? Because time's on our side. Most of the time when we're going to things, it's planned out. And even if it's not and it's quick reaction, you're there with all your buddies that you train with very frequently. You get more advanced training. You get more training in general. You get to shoot together a lot more, and you get that communication.
Do you guys ever train from depth?
What do you mean?
So I know it's very, very taboo, and I'll give you a quick incident that happened in Kenya for the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
General rule of thumb, don't shoot from depth.
Correct.
If you're in front of me, I'm not going to shoot past you, even if I have a positive target.
Yeah.
And that's because I don't know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Now, the quick little scenario that happened, I don't know how much I can say about this. There was a scenario that happened I already said the country, in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say the Air Force Base or anything like that, where there was one tower up front. Boko Haram attacked the Air Force Base. There's another, so there's normally two towers. There was a Overwatch tower that refused to engage positive ID good targets because they said we were told not to shoot from depth. And part of that problem was it's a 45 to 50 foot fucking tower. So thankfully, they retracted the gate or the stairs to the tower. So there's two airmen scared for their lives in tower number 1. Tower number 2's looking at this.
but they're not shooting because they're from depth.
Now, I have trained to shoot from depth outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mostly because number one always cuts left.
Okay.
Unless there's a wall.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So number one always cuts left.
Mm-hmm.
Number two always cuts right. In one, it splits the target, so they can't focus on two.
Yep.
But that way, if we're offset, normally it's not like, oh, you're 50 yards ahead of me. I'm going to shoot.
Yeah. Are you shooting from depth in more of an urban area? Not like building context, but like you have more of an open environment?
Normally, yeah.
The
shooting from depth in rooms is hard.
Yeah. So we try, obviously, that's like, we have that 1 meter rule, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to
offset
off of the barrel, not the person.
Yep.
So we train like, hey, we don't shoot within that distance.
So 1 meter is close though.
That is very close. That's
how often do you actually train shooting 1 meter off?
Well, that's more of a Sims scenario.
Okay.
We will avoid that for like live fire in a shoot house.
Sure.
And we're like way more strict with kind of the movements. Like we slow everything down in that aspect. But I would say when we're outside, we have trained in a format of shooting from depth.
Sure.
In a very, very safe manner. But so we at least know what it's like, especially
like you're on
snipers.
The range, somebody's over on the left, snipers are back, they're shooting.
Mm-hmm. They'll make their shot calls and there are calls, and that's like, you will freeze.
Yep.
And they'll take that, so you know what it's like.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
You don't want the first time being in that scenario in real world and you're right by you, right? That's super unsettling. It's not fun.
It's the feeling. Like depending on how close the bullet is, you can feel like the air, like right past your face. And it's
So in that context,
uncanny.
Yes. Now when we're in close quarters, like such as a shoot house or a Sims, we try to avoid shooting from depth because, like you're right, we don't know how our buddies in front of us are going to react. And when you're in a condensed area, such as a room or a hallway, the predictability is so much less because are they going to go to the ground? Are they going to stand right up in front of me? Are they going to like dip out to the side? Or the angles, am I in a position where I'm kind of at an angle and my buddy, like I call something out and they step out, or they don't adhere to their rules of CQB and they come off their wall and step in front of me.
Yeah.
So within a house, we try not to, or within a closed structure, we try not to shoot from depth.
No, I was talking more of that 1 meter offset of like, how often do you actually, I wasn't going to say it. I don't normally like giving out like training methodologies and stuff.
But
I think that's pretty common knowledge though.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the firearm safety rules, right?
Yeah.
You want to know your target and beyond, and don't put your gun at something that...
The Air Force one was because the towers were staggered, like literally linear. The Overwatch tower in their report stated, well, we didn't have the mechanical, like 1 meter offset.
Mm-hmm.
Not mechanical offset, but 1 meter offset.
Yeah.
That we were shooting directly at the target, but it was down.
Yeah. That's interesting. So I guess...
We have a 249 Bravo, so it's like...
yeah.
And you're like fucking missed it.
Pink mist, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that's... Yeah.
It's going to happen.
The 240 249 is a little bit smaller. Same round, but
you get enough accurate rounds in the same spot or in the same general area.
Well, and it's automatic, dude. Yeah. Like people discount the thing about the automatic, like in warfare, is like the quick burst, like you just shot off 3 to 4.
Yeah.
Like very, very tight.
Yeah.
Most of the time you ride up a little bit, but it's if you're mounted on a mounted machine gun, that 3 to 4 is like paper plate size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you go.
To answer your question, there is a little bit of it. So
that's good.
Just not a.
The problem that I have with regional SWAT teams is that coming from agencies that have full-time SWAT teams, you could find places to fill.
Yeah.
There are active calls you could go to. There's proactive stuff you could do. I know for a while we had a street level unit that all guys were SWAT certified.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not they were actually on the team, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think they were
There's a couple that were in
SWAT certified, but
different areas that needed to be SWAT certified, but they weren't actually on the team.
Right.
Like they were on the EOD.
Right. Yeah. So like you go through the SWAT training and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
it's
that
not.
doesn't even
No,
that
it's
doesn't even
you're
scratch the
not.
surface. That's like our building searches on steroids, essentially.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like taking a water hose and just spraying it. There's no way that
How long is the school?
It's a week long, but it varies from like less lethals,
Yeah.
like being exposed to like flashbangs, different kinds of
Like being in the room when it goes off.
They don't do it in a room for the concussion sake, but they'll do it like in an
Outside,
open area.
yeah.
And then also you get re-exposed to OC,
Yep.
CS, so you know what the effects are. And then they go through building searches. But like from what I remember going through the SWAT school and what we do now is like very different.
Night and day. Yeah.
But the principles are still the same, right? So 1 week of that, and only 1 week of that, is I would not say like you are still like certified. Yes, you've got a piece of paper that says you went through this basic SWAT school, but I would say being on a unit that has SWAT members on it,
Yeah.
and they're doing things that they've been trained and they're safe on, would not necessarily qualify that person that is also on that team that went through the school, because
To go do a warrant pickup.
correct.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff is maybe the warrant pickup is compliant. Like, yeah, sure. But we all know that there's the warrant pickups that are not compliant, or the evictions that are not compliant.
Yep.
And then you need to actually have the SWAT team come, right?
Yep.
So
it's just having that extra tool. This is the thing that gets me too. And I talked to David about this last week. There's a lack of training when it comes to known situations. So what I mean by that is we know all of the schools in our area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any like hidden schools that we don't know about. Fair?
No. Yeah. Well, we'll preface this. All the schools in our area are very much reaching out to law enforcement for SROs.
Yes. But what I'm saying is, so I was talking to David and I was saying like, it really bothers me that like the military will know like the probability of getting involved in something is pretty high, but then they'll only spin you up for a month prior to your deployment.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, "Oh, you're good. You've been blessed.
Yeah.
Go forth and be prosperous.
Yeah.
Kill the terrorist."
You only need a month, then you're good.
And then you talk to like we'll go at the very lowest level, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Rangers.
Okay.
Very high up in operator operations, right? Like when you look at the 82nd Airborne, they're like the last level before I would really classify people as like operators, right? And then you go from 82nd Airborne into Rangers. And then once you say, hey, I was a Ranger, I was like, okay, you were an operator.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of spin up that they have prior to a deployment is so comprehensive. Talking to my friends that have gone through it, they're like, dude, like my training was like 6 months.
Yeah,
I knew like in my deployment was only 8. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's a long time to train. But they know what they're getting into. They know what their mission is. They know what their objective is. And they're so ingrained into like their 525 50s, like ID sweeps and stuff like that. It's just like literally comes second nature. Problem that I have with law enforcement. We have the resources to do that stuff when it comes to money.
Yeah.
If you told me, hey, we work 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to train once a week just to sharpen the blade every week?
Mm-hmm.
We'll pay for you. We'll pay for your ammo. We'll pay for you going through the shoot house.
Yeah.
Pay for everything. I would be like 100%.
Yeah.
You sign me up.
There's only 10% though.
But you only need 4 dudes.
Yeah.
That or four gals too, or gals will be non-discriminatory. You only need 4 people to successfully execute an operation most of the time.
Yeah.
You need, and that's like physical boots on the ground. You need supportive functions, but you need 4 dudes.
Yeah.
And it's probably one. You could probably do it with 3.
Yeah. It just depends on the scenario, right? You could finish it out with, or have at least a successful outcome
Yeah.
with the 4, and then you have the response from everybody else that doesn't want to do the training, doesn't have the training, but they know what their job is to do on a perimeter.
Sure.
Oh, I need to make sure no one crosses this line, or hey, I need to make sure this place is secured, no one comes in or out.
You know, my problem is
I set this up, and this is where everyone responds to, right? And then the other 4 be like, if they have like two or 3 people with them that are just attached to them, and they're essentially their leaders of that little, call them like a
detail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or quick reaction force, or whatever you want to preface that. You could still have a favorable outcome.
Yes. My problem, it falls on the people that think they know what they're doing and interject themselves when it's like,
you know me, I'm very, very mild when it comes to that. Even like if like the people usually have to ask me for what my opinions are, unless it's so out in left field that I think what is being said is like, hey, whoa.
So I'll be completely candid though. Like there's been trainings where it's like I've done vehicle takedowns where we split the vehicle, right? That's something that's normally not trained. I don't know if you guys train it with vehicle takedowns, left side, right side.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that on a certain call. And so when right side started getting taken down, or driver side, I was like, left side needs to be taken down. Why? Because I've never trained it any other way on patrol. So what did I do? I immediately switched back into, this is my training, muzzle aims down.
Yep.
If there's a threat, I shoot in the pelvic girdle.
Yep.
And I just...
Do you want to know how many trainings they've had on that? Like while I've been here?
Split approach?
Patrol? Oh, just like a vehicle apprehension. I think maybe one.
I was about to say, because I think I went to it with you.
Yeah, when we were working on swings.
Yeah.
Other than that, the only time I've seen it was at SWAT. And we took that from Aurora, because we had some guys that went up there, and Aurora does it all the time.
Oh, 100%.
Like they have teams that, okay,
the full-time SWAT team.
Yeah, but they have a team that they practice that. Yep. They're very good at it. So how do you get good at it? You send people to those trainings, you learn from them, and then you bring it home. So I've been fortunate to have that extra experience in training, like I said, that I get through the SWAT team, and I've used that on a patrol level. It wasn't a vehicle apprehension, was unknown trouble. Came in as a possible kidnapping / DV. Turned out it was a stolen vehicle. It was pursued. Vehicle during rush hour went oncoming traffic on one of our main highways. It was called off, but there were so many calls of this vehicle traveling the wrong way that we were able to keep up, kind of like paralleling it.
Yep.
And it got off. Someone from a different agency kind of got behind it, but they weren't allowed to pursue. And then we got a call within one of our...
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? You have a vehicle going opposite flow, counterflow. So for civilians, that means if you are driving southbound on a road, there's a car coming towards your direction head on.
At let's just on a highway with the average speed of 50. They're probably doing 50 or faster. So when you guys get hit, you're probably getting hit at 100, 120 miles an hour.
Yes.
Not survivable in most vehicles. Right. I don't care what you're driving. Unless
so this person is putting, you are going to get out of there. You're going to have limbs missing. You're going to be paralyzed, or you're going to be dead. If you are lucky and the grace of God is on your side and God has other plans for you, you'll walk away unscathed.
If you're sleeping
or you're drunk.
Yeah.
You're probably going to die. And to have an agency say, no, we're not going to do anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about you personally. I've already hung my hat on certain situations where I will go against policy if it saves the lives of other people.
Yeah.
So if I'm in a pursuit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a pursuit rated car, but if I'm number one and they go counterflow, there is a high probability that I will TVI your car
Mm-hmm.
greater than 40 miles per hour.
Well, at that point, you are looking at life or death.
Yes. Because if you continue to drive counterflow,
The chances of hitting someone are just increasing.
I would rather lose my job than to live my entire life in regret because this person killed an entire car of a family.
Yeah. Because they're not just going to hit a single motorist. They're going to hit a family.
Yep.
Or a school bus or maybe one of those minivans or those Mercedes vans that are full of people.
So anyway, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just that's one of those things that like I get in the moment that officer's probably like, all right, I'm getting called off.
Yeah.
But like
I can't remember if he even got into it. He just might have aired that this is where it was.
Okay.
So after that, they go into a neighborhood that was part of our jurisdiction, and we get conflicting stories. But what happened was they essentially carjacked, got shot at the people, and took their car and left. The car probably drove. The car probably drove right by me because they gave like 4 different vehicle descriptions of the vehicle that was taken. And I was coming down the main road.
Were we working together at this time? I think we were.
Yeah, you were on this call.
I was on this call.
You were perimeter, or you were one of the first ones down there, and you were held perimeter to stop vehicles from coming down here.
That.
So the vehicle that was left was a truck with the darkest tint you could think of.
Yeah.
One of the people that was working in the area had a drone, tried using it, couldn't see. So what do we have to do? We have to try and...
It's a vehicle assault. They don't want to call it a vehicle assault, but it's a vehicle assault.
Vehicle assault, vehicle apprehension, vehicle contact, whatever, however you want to call it. Yeah. So we got some shields up, and we made sure that we were safe.
Yeah.
We had this miraculous 511 tool that looks like an ice pick.
Can I ask you, like, because this is my thought process.
Yeah.
As a less lethal instructor, I know the super sock cannot be used to shatter windows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why.
So
because I've used it to shatter windows in the past, or even the 40 foamy round.
Yeah. So what I was told, the developers that we buy our munitions from.
I know. Did you go through the course?
No.
Okay.
But I know someone that like pretty close with them, and we like they've explained why that they won't cover us.
Yeah.
We can't see into that vehicle. Say there's more people in that vehicle. Yeah. Maybe there's an innocent someone that shouldn't isn't there
or something like that.
That super sock or whatever goes through and hits the person in the head. Maybe we don't have lethal, like we're not at the lethal use of force yet, correct? And they die. We can't justify that. Oh, why did you break because they wouldn't roll their windows down. So we shot this non-lethal thing, broke the window, and through the physics or whatever happened, the round hits them and kills them.
I know.
That's why.
I just think there should be development. Axon, I'm talking to you because you own everything. Law enforcement. There should be some sort of munition that we can shoot from a 12 gauge shotgun that shatters the windows, and they do ballistic testing on that makes sure
there's no over penetration.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
bro, spark
beneficial.
Plug. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You take spark plugs and you shatter it up. You take the whatever it is.
Yeah.
Probably cancerous metal, and fucking chuck it out a window, and it just
make sure you're wearing gloves.
I'm gonna start carrying that around. I'm gonna start carrying like a bag of like shattered fucking spark plug.
Just that, hey, can I stop by the
shops?
The shops, or maybe even like one of our tow yards that have a bunch of cars that are just torn up.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you got any spark plugs in the yard?
Hey man, I'm trying to get them spark plugs. You got them?
If you look in the dirt, there might be some from where we crushed that car over there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we have to figure out how we're going to walk up to that. Well, because I'd been to a training, I was able to lead a small group of people up there in a safe manner with shields and set them up for success, right?
Yep.
So I think that's where it's beneficial being part of the SWAT team where I've had extra training that has helped me in the everyday field.
Yeah. Do you guys ever use and this is like another training thing that I've done before, but like paintballs against shields. So you have active threat. You're going up. You're doing a vehicle. We did it with vehicle assaults.
We use Sims, and we have.
Well, paintballs have more of a like thud feel
Mhm.
when for the shield holders.
Yeah.
So it basically stress inoculates the shield holder as like, if I'm getting shot at, my job is to hold this
To hold it
shield.
there.
My lethal cover will neutralize the threat. So it's like we were doing a vehicle assault.
I
We
like
walk
that.
up, they pop out with the paintball gun, and they hit your legs too,
Yeah.
just to like make you feel pain.
Yeah.
But it's like you feel the pain, you realize I have to hold this shield because
Yeah. We don't use paintballs.
Yeah.
But we do use Sims, and the Sims that they have now are spicy as shit.
yeah,
Like,
zingy.
yeah. Oh, they put like pretty good dents or indents in wooden shield that is like made to replicate the shield that we have.
Sure.
And they're like, I wasn't behind it, so I couldn't tell you what it feels like.
Yeah.
But like we had a scenario where we were coming downstairs and someone just wanted to use the shield to try it out, and it saved him. And somehow the guy behind him
got
like
obliterated.
like in the legs at a couple of spots. But I mean, if it were real life, like they both would have walked away.
Relatively okay.
The other guy would have had a round or two on his leg.
Yeah.
But you also have another SWAT guy that knows the scenario. He knows what he's doing. He knows our tactics. So he's just being a dick and shooting it up, right? But it worked.
Yeah.
Like the shield did its job. But
well, you
as a
train for
paintball,
them. You should train for the most
advanced adversary.
advanced. Yeah.
You know, because you never know. There might be someone that's unhinged that through whatever happened, they could be military, they could be a legit operator, right?
Yeah.
Or they could be in law enforcement.
Next thing you know, you got booby traps all around the house.
We've dealt with it. They weren't
like sophisticated.
They were
you told
citizens.
me about it. Yeah, you told me about it. I'm talking like operators gone to counter IED school, which for the listeners, counter IED school is a way to basically teach you how to create IEDs
or diffuse.
Well, it's all about counter IED. So we're going to teach you how they're made.
Yeah.
That way you can counter them.
Yeah.
And like, I remember leaving that class going like, I feel like I can make a bomb.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it because it's like, it's too risky.
Yeah.
Right.
I like my hands. I like
my hands. I like my face.
Yeah.
It's a little ugly, but
it makes some money.
It's my face. Yeah. So that's one pursuit you were involved in. Was there another crazy pursuit that you're allowed to talk about? I know that the reason why I say we're allowed to talk about it is because there might be like criminal cases going on still. So
yeah, I've been in a fair share. My first one that I was involved in, FTO, didn't even start in our county. It started at county line going north, and that was a kidnapping. Text 911, kidnapping. Deputy finds it, rush hour, and we pick him up north of county line.
Why?
Was
it a text to help?
Yeah,
like they reached out to other agencies to help out.
They started texting. We picked it up at the south of our border.
Okay.
So it just took that long for us to get to a position where we could find it, right? So essentially, the person was being held at gunpoint, being kidnapped. So we once we fall in because we're vehicle number 2, second phase of FTO. I'm driving around, and we're like rush hour traffic.
Oh man,
it was
looking for this car.
Nervous. Oh, we had it. I just had to find the other cop car.
Because you're number 1.
No, we were number 2. They were number 1. They already found it. They were behind it.
Oh, okay. So you're playing catch up.
Yeah. So they're like, "Hey, get ready with sticks." I get out of the car. I'm like, "There's 4 lanes of heavy traffic, and they're in lane number 2. This isn't gonna happen." So as they pass us, I put the sticks back in the car. And sticks are stop sticks. These tubes, 3-foot sections of like a triangle
metal spikes
with hollow tube spikes that deflate tires. So we put that back, and we're like, "All right, we're gonna catch back up to you."
Yeah.
So right after county line, we get behind them, and they light them up. Guy decides, "Hey, I'm not going to slow down, and in fact, we're going to accelerate." We hit 3 digits and Explorers, so those things were cooking.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where we were almost losing them, and we were going to have to call it off.
What was he driving?
A little sedan. I can't remember exactly.
Was it a Hyundai?
No, I want to say it was a Honda. Maybe it was an Accord or something.
Okay.
But we were starting to lose them. So we were going to start calling it. Traffic started opening up.
Calling it as in like terminate.
Yeah, we were just about to terminate, but they used their turn signal, and we saw which exit they got off of. So we're like, oh, okay, we'll see if we can get up there. We get up there, they T-boned a minivan, the family in it, but we weren't even behind them, so we didn't see it. But we see this vehicle in the middle of the intersection, and this guy running across lanes of traffic. So that's the guy. So I'm like, oh, maybe we can just like clip him with a car. He just took somebody hostage.
Fucking door check.
But he's running through a grassy median. So as I start going through it, I just slide through the grass. And I'm like, oh shit, I was not expecting that. I have this brake fade from the cooking, right? And then I'm going through, add grass to it. I'm like, oh shit. So then they run into a parking lot with like some restaurants and then.
So did you start like sliding and lose control?
Oh yeah, I drove all the way through the grass. It was like 30 feet of grass and just.
And you didn't hit him?
No. But I had my
Thank God, dude.
I had my second opportunity, right? So I reline up and he's running towards this parking lot. And so I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. We're going to get him, right? But he, like on foot, he had the advantage to where you can run places where a car can't go.
Sure.
So we're just trying to keep up with him. And I hit a curb, like not just like a gradual curb. It's one of those like hard, like foot curbs, right? I hit it at 25 miles an hour. Everything in the car, boom, boom. The energy drink flies out, everything in the visor flies out, hits us. Like, oh shit! And as we come to a sliding stop, which I don't have brakes, right, because we're fading, my FTO jumps out of the passenger seat. He's starting to yell at the guys he's running. I like the biggest thing I can remember. There's a family in a car right next to us. They're just watching us as I'm trying to slide to a stop. I get out of the car and I played sports.
Who was your FTO? Are you allowed to say?
Carlson. He's a detective now.
I don't know. Yeah. I got at some point.
So he takes off behind this dumpster and bushes. I'm thinking, okay, well, they either are going to run back to the highway or they're just going to keep on running south.
Yeah.
Well, I played football, and you know how you catch someone is you take the angle, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take this fucking angle. I'm going to catch them as they're going, right? So I'm fucking booking it. I come around this corner. I don't see anyone. I see a guy like, I don't know, 40 yards down the way, like talking, like he's actually talking on a phone. I'm like, hey, did you see anybody? Kind of looks at me. And he keeps on walking. I'm like, hey, did you see anyone run this way? Kind of looks at me again, just like I'm like, hey, did you fucking see anybody run this way? And he just like doesn't even reply back to me. Someone on the third story above him's like, hey, go check over there in the bushes. I think he's over there. I'm like, oh, thanks. I turn around and I start using my gun light. It dies. I'm like, oh shit. So I have to get my flashlight out. And there's this dude sitting in a ball with a hood over his face. Like, if I can't see you, you can't see me. And my FTO is nowhere to be found. Like he jumped the fence. He's like off over in the like looking over the highway, right? So I start just yelling at this guy, hey, show me your hands, lay on the ground, get on your face. And my FTO starts running. She's like, oh shit, I can't get on the radio because my hand's occupied by the flashlight. I've got a gun. This is the first time I'm like felony, like laying somebody out, like real world stuff. Like, oh, I hope I'm doing this right.
I hope
like,
I don't have to shoot this man.
Have, like all this adrenaline. And then my FTO just like jumps over this fence and he's like, oh, hey, we're outside of Wahoo tacos, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, we're outside Fish Tacos. And that's all that came out of the radio. And everyone's like, where the fuck are these guys?
Where's Fish Tacos? Yeah.
Right. So then the first deputy that was with us that initiated the stop, he came over to us. We got the guy in the custody. He actually, when he took off running behind the bushes, he threw his gun like over the fence and towards
that's
the highway.
good.
So that was reassuring. Right?
Yeah.
And then after that, they got the victim to the hospital, and I flattened 2 tires when I hit that curb. So after we got the guy to the substation, put him up there, I got to change 2 tires.
Did you drive your car with the flat tires, or did you take another car?
So the rims were bent.
Oh.
And the tires made it to the substation. And then when I got to the substation, I changed the tires with one of our spares, and I took someone else's spares. Yeah. So that was my first pursuit. I was like, fuck yeah, this is a fun job, right?
I like this job.
Yeah. So that was my first experience in chasing a car. My second one, 2 weeks after learning how to TVI a car. I'm like, oh, this is dope, right? So I'm working down in the Southern District, come across a car that's parked on the side of the road right past the intersection. trying to brand new cop, still trying to figure out how to develop PC, reasonable suspicion, and all this other stuff.
Sure.
I have the stuff laying in front of me, right? There's a case of beer. There's some paraphernalia. At the time, like, it could be anything, right? And so I'm like, hey, can I search your car? And he's like, no, I don't want you to search my car. I'm like, okay, that's fair. Like, I'm still trying to, but at that time, like, looking at now, I had more than enough reason to
get
detain him
Yeah.
and do what I need to do, right? For anything, at least.
Pennsylvania
DUI.
v. Mims, dude.
But young, dumb, and still trying to learn, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, if he's not going to let me search the car, I can ask him for the insurance. And as he's looking for stuff, I'll have plain view, right? Well, we come across, he has a spoon that's covered in white stuff, right? I'm like, oh, there it is. I'm like, hey, what's that for? He's like, oh, I use a fruit and cereal. Well, why is that white stuff on there? Like, oh, it's that milk. I'm like, that is not milk. Step out.
Yeah, it's powdered milk, bro.
Yeah, it's for my nose beer. So at that point in time, I grab onto him. I have another deputy with me, and he's like, he's got that like drug high on him, right?
Yeah.
He's fighting with us. He's able to get back in the car. He's able to turn the car on, and he's able to.
Oh my God,
fucking
you're
take
one of
off.
those fucking videos that I watch, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
As everybody's holding on to this dude, and he's like,
Yeah. So that was before like having any like real world idea.
Sure.
So I learned a lot from this, but the biggest thing is I didn't hang on to him when he took off.
Good.
Neither did my partner. He almost did. And, when it happened, I thought he ran over my partner's foot because as the tire, he was close enough, it could have ran over his foot and he kind of started limping. I thought that, and so I was like, oh, we're going to chase this guy. So the supervisor was like,
I heard about this.
do you have something? I'm like, yeah, I think he ran over my partner's foot. He's like, well, do you think they're under the influence? I'm like, well, yeah, they could be. But yeah, like I've got so much going through my head. Like the real answer is like, yeah, they're definitely on something.
Yeah.
They probably just smoked it. They probably just cooked it up, whatever else, right?
Yeah.
So this is my first solo pursuit, second pursuit ever. And we're going down to me like, oh, high speed, doing the speed limit.
What?
Yeah, we're doing the speed limit. We're not even speeding. We're just doing the speed limit.
You're just refusing to stop.
Just refusing to stop. We get to a intersection. The person that was with me was past us, so we could throw stop sticks, right?
Yep.
We get to an intersection where he just stops. I'm thinking, okay, this is
red light.
It ended up being a red light, but I was like so focused on the guy. I was like, oh, get out of the car, start challenging him. Light turns green. He makes a U-turn. So I'm like, oh shit.
Looks at you as he's driving past.
Yeah. So I get behind him like, shit, the speeds are good. I'm going to TVI at him. I just learned how to do it. Let's fucking do it, right? So my partner's coming racing back up to me because he passed us to go throw some stop sticks further down. And I attempt it at way too slow of a speed and incorrectly because this is my first time doing it live and I've got all this adrenaline.
Yep.
So it basically just tapped the bumper. Well, this caused him to ride that high that was just kind of at a flat line to shoot through the roof, right? So now he's doing 70 on residential zones. He's no longer on the highway.
25s, yeah.
So he's in the wrong lanes. He's doing 70 plus miles an hour.
You had to tap him, Colt.
All of the roads, right? I learned a lot from this one too, right? I almost followed him on the wrong side of the road, and I was like, oh, this is the median. I need to get back on my side of the road.
Yeah. And
then trying to figure out how to, also follow the speed limit signs. Thank God I worked on graveyards, and I like checking. You can see a lot further down if there's any lights.
Yep.
Well, then we got to a point where I had a GPS. I'm like, oh, he's going into a cul-de-sac. This is going to be a perfect time to TVI him in the apex of the turn, right? So I call out, all right, we're going to TVI him. We get in the apex of the thing. I make contact with his car, assuming that I have a good TVI. It was not a TVI.
You rammed him.
I put the front bumper in the rear, the driver's side passenger door.
The front bumper in the rear passenger.
Yeah.
Dude.
On the driver's side. So
how?
So
is he making a left turn or a right turn?
Yeah. So he was in the cul-de-sac, staying on the correct side. So as he's turning at the apex of the cul-de-sac, like I'm just gonna tap the back of his trunk, right? Well, and the motions of everything that happened, I did not tap his bumper. I tapped the back door of that car, and it spun him, and it bought some time for my partner to get down there.
Probably destroyed his axle too.
No, I didn't hit him that hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were doing 15, 20 miles an hour, so it wasn't like a huge collision.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was enough to spin the vehicle.
Not
off
a
access,
TVI.
but not a TVI. Not by
Per definition
or execution.
Sure. In your brain, you're
yeah.
thinking this is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, this is awesome. No, that was not awesome. I mean, it was fun, but it was not applied appropriately.
Sure.
And lessons were definitely learned. Well, as he leaves that, as he's leaving the street, he hits partner head on, and it turns him back into the cul-de-sac that we just left.
Wait, he hit the guy that was coming to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he then
hit
my partner head on, but that was at the exit of the cul-de-sac, so just like spun him back into the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
So then we did this weird Y pin to where my partner was on one side, I was on the other side, and we squeezed the car so he could no longer drive.
Yeah.
And it worked phenomenally. So then the guy gets out of the car, takes off running, and I tackle him. We start wrestling around on the ground. He's like, how can I get this to stop? I'm like, stop fucking resisting. And he just went straight as a board. Like, stopped all movement, stiff as a board.
Verbal commands worked.
I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was not expecting this. I was like, all right, man, let's put your hands behind your back.
Put your hands behind your back now. Yes, sir.
So we get him in handcuffs.
Roll over to your side. Yes, sir.
And that's how that one ended.
Walk yourself to my car. Yes, sir.
Yep. It was wild. So then I later found out from one of my buddies that worked in the jail.
Yeah.
The guy was not expecting me to get out and chase him like that, nor tackle him. And then I found out he was on a 8-ball.
Oh, that's why he was.
Meth.
Yeah.
Flippy
floppy.
Yep.
Crazy dude.
Yeah. So then the supervisor was like, "Well, why did you ram him?" I was like, "I was going for a TVI." I was like, "Yeah, I watched the video. That wasn't a TVI." I'm like, let me watch that video. I was like, yeah, that wasn't a TVI.
See, but that's
I really tried though.
But that's what's effed up is
it was within the good intentions.
Right. Well, it's very easy for anybody to have that much experience.
Mm-hmm. Now,
right. Then look at your video and go, dude, that wasn't even close.
Mm-hmm.
So like shot placement, right?
Yeah.
Like if we recorded like even just shoot houses and stuff like that of like, oh, was that target, like we went through a shoot house in the security forces and it was shoot don't shoot situations in each room, right?
Yeah.
And we trained a lot with shooting where the hands were.
Yeah.
So like depending if the hands were low and they had a gun or pointed at you low, you would shoot pelvic girdle, right?
Okay.
So it's because it shows like you're looking for you're looking at their hands. What's going to kill you? Their hands.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if they're wearing a suicide vest, you're fucking anyway. Like you walk in the room and everybody's pink mist.
Yeah.
Party. But you look and you shoot where the hands are, right?
Yeah.
So like I remember we had a GoPro and we sent some guy through and we're like, how was your shot placement and stuff? And he's like, oh, it's really good. And like in his mind,
it was good.
It was fucking good.
Yeah, I've been there. I have been there.
But we watched the camera. Camera says
otherwise.
Not too good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like, but it's easy for somebody who's gone through a lot of experiences, like sergeants and stuff like that. Most sergeants gone through a lot of experience to look at a video and say like, oh, that was really shitty. Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
And instead of taking on,
been a victim of that.
Right. And then instead of saying like, oh, this guy's, a 2-year cop. I don't know how long were you?
It was 6 months solo, if that.
Okay. First year cop.
Yeah.
So this guy's a first year cop. In his brain, he was thinking this. He tried it once. His adrenaline's going. I wish we were all issued heart rate monitors.
Yeah.
And like that was part of the evidence used in trials.
Well, I can.
It's like
something crazy.
Listen, Your Honor, my heart rate was at cardiac arrest levels when I made this decision.
I don't know, because that incident that I was a part of not too long ago, I was wearing a heart rate monitor.
Yeah.
And my peak was 120.
So I
went direct. I think that was probably after I almost got hit.
So I had an incident in a Walmart parking lot where a female decided to drive away from me, and that was the last day. So for a long time, I took my knife out of my pocket, took my window breaker out of my pocket a long time ago. Fucking mistake.
Yeah.
Because if you run from me and I've got the time, I'll pop out my switchblade and pop your tire.
I mean, why not?
I'll do it. I don't give a fuck. Like you ran from the cops. You got at least obstruction.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're under arrest. And I told the person that you're under arrest. And then and I tried to break the window with my hand. Don't do that.
Yeah. Especially newer
am-
vehicles that are all laminated.
Well, and I'm used to wearing the impact gloves
Oh,
when I
still.
did vehicle assaults. You can punch if you have the impact gloves, you can punch a window and break a window. But it's because you psychologically you can get it all.
Yeah.
Anyway, she drives away, and what did I say? So she drove away. She drove away. Some agency ended up finding her. Almost slipped there. Some agency ended up finding her. Tackled
This was
her.
in Durham, right?
Sure. This is at another agency.
Mm.
Another agency found her, tackles her on the ground. So I get back in the car, and we're talking about like who's writing the main report, and just like dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get off the phone and I'm talking to my navigator, DHS worker, and I'm like, isn't this fucked up? My heart rate is at 130 right now because we're talking about fucking reports. She's like, what was it? What was it when you were at the window? And I was like, oh, let me look at it. 70. So I'm at the point in my career where it's like when I get involved with stuff, my heart rate starts dropping lower, and it's like I get more calm. You start talking to me about administrative shit, my blood pressure, my heart rate, and everything else goes up, and I'm just like, why are we?
Yeah.
Why is this? This is a non-issue.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a double-edged sword there. Is like if you expose yourself to a lot of high stress situations, after a while you end up finding yourself in lower respiratory rates.
Yeah.
Like breathing and cardiac rates.
Yeah.
So it's like my breathing slows and my heart rate drops when I'm in a situation where it's like I need to make very split second decisions.
Yeah.
And that's been proven by my heart rate monitor on my wrist. I've had the I think was Onyx or something like that.
I'm not sure.
It used to be like a cardio, like it would track your breathing and it would track your heart rate from your chest.
Yeah.
So we had one of those, but I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be cool if they could get it integrated somehow. And that way, when those decisions come down of like, I'm reviewing your camera and I'm like, that wasn't a TVI at all.
Yeah.
But then I look at your stress and I'm like,
that was high.
God, dude, your heart rate was at 150. Your breathing was at like, we'll say 30 a minute.
Yeah.
Which is pretty high.
Well, maybe that's what they're doing with Whoop. Like, I know
behind the scenes.
Yeah. Because our wellness director asked me after that incident, was like, hey, was anyone wearing that? I was like, no, because you guys took them back because of the trial had ended. But I have this other brand that I'm using at the moment.
Yeah.
That this is what it said.
It's pretty accurate.
Is it accurate? It could be.
Yeah.
I would say probably for that time where my heart rate was at 120, probably pretty accurate. But I also had a cognitive decision making, like, hey, I need to bring my heart rate down and I need to start breathing,
so
I can make better decisions.
Yep.
And then after that, I think it just dropped to where I was like in complete control. So I think you could push that, or we could bring something up with that, and that would be good. I think that should be something that's throughout, not just here but anywhere, because that is a huge decision.
It doesn't tell you exactly, but it shows you an insight that you might not have, right? Because if I'm it would
here's how you could paint the picture, especially if you're in court. If you could translate, all right, this is what heart rates generally are averaging with
this is his resting.
No, but like in fright, like when someone's scared.
I see what you're saying.
And this is what they are feeling. This is what it looks like.
Yep.
This is where this officer was during this incident.
Yeah.
You know, he was in control, but this is where his heart rate was. This is where his breathing was. Because granted, you don't want someone that fades to black and doesn't make a decision, or they freeze. So you want to be able to have them exposed to enough terrible things, stress, whatever you want to say, so they can at least work through it. Because once you start working through it, you can start addressing the real issues.
Yeah, I think
you could translate it by painting that picture. Like, this is what this looks like on average.
Yeah, and it gets better throughout the career, right? So it's like if you keep the same vendor, or even if you don't need the same vendor, if you keep the same heart rate during a shift, right, it does two things. my watch is a Garmin.
Mm-hmm.
It tells me when my stress levels are too high for the day.
Yeah.
So not only does that tell a sergeant like, oh, okay, maybe this guy needs a day off. Maybe that. I think that's going to be the future of law enforcement is when because dude, I keep so much shit in. You keep so much shit in. We've been on calls together where I literally look at you and I'm like, I want to cry so bad right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've got shit to do, but like,
yeah,
I feel fucking terrible.
Yeah. Builds up.
Shit builds up because then by the time you're like, okay, I'm ready to process this, your brain's like, I've already gone through the trouble of filing this away under extreme trauma for you.
You'll remember this one night right before you go to sleep.
Yep.
And then you won't sleep for days.
Yeah. You will process this when I tell you to process it, Matt. Yeah. So I think that's something we need to, I want to work on with you.
Yeah.
I want to work on it. I think it should be something, even if it is like a strap.
Yeah.
Because you can get respiratory rate.
Yeah.
Respiratory rate is huge. One, it shows the officer is trying to de-escalate, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm arguing with somebody and I consciously go,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
It shows two things. One, I'm either ready for a fight and I'm like trying to clear my mind and get my body oxygenated. Or it shows like, I know I'm getting pissed off. I need to take a breather.
Yeah.
So if I say something off cuff next, like shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, this officer is like, let's look at it. Let's look at the entire log from the entire day. Oh, his whole heart rate has been sitting at 120, 130.
Yeah.
And of course, we're going to talk about nicotine use. We're going to talk about caffeine use.
Yeah.
And like measuring that and making sure that we're not taking too much.
Yeah.
But I think it's insightful, man. I think it's
I think we could do something with that, and where our wellness program is, I think if something was drafted up, we could get some company to T&E it so we can say, hey, we're trying to find the benefits, and you could look at it some kind of study for starting out at our agency, and we can broaden it out past that.
So but my question to you is, if I came to you as a random officer and I said, hey, wear this heart rate because it's going to help us justify your uses of force, what are your immediate thoughts?
I would need more context, more explanation. But that's what we would be able to do.
Like it's going to protect you more in uses of force.
Yeah. But not
help
only that,
justify.
We can also use it to help us on wellness days or like sick days, because sick days aren't just for when you are sick or your kids are sick. There might be days where you can't handle it, and where you could make a decision that ruins your life, someone else's life, or could get you in trouble at work and could cause you more stress down in the long run, right?
You know what I've been saying for a long time is I don't need to give you a justification for why I'm using my sick day. My sick day can be mental health. Yeah. If you look at my Instagram and I'm out snowboarding on my sick day,
that's a therapy.
It's my fucking therapy.
Yeah.
You can go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But if a supervisor sees that, they're like, he called out sick and he's not actually sick.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, you don't know what's going on up in my fucking cranium.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on. So like, maybe I just need this day. Oh, 100%. I completely agree. Now, granted, it's going to show some insight, not all.
Correct.
But some is better. Right. Some is better than none.
Yeah.
Right. So if I just walk around and my heart rate's at 80, which is a relatively high but normal resting rate, right?
Yeah.
But mentally, I'm like taxed out. I still think there needs to be that type of communication. I do think, and we'll wrap this up here soon, man. But I do think the future is going to be that physiological tracking of stuff.
They want, or when I say they, the general population holds law enforcement to higher standard, as they should, because we're supposed to be impartial. We're supposed to be, holding the law, like everyone accountable, right? We're not above it. We hold each other accountable. If we are having a day or days where like your brain cannot handle the stress, we should be able to tell ourselves it's okay not to go into work. And then our supervisors or whoever should understand that, because I would venture out to say a lot of bad mistakes are made when something is not going right in that officer's personal life, work life, or there's just something in their head that maybe, like you said, is processing from years prior.
Yep.
And then the shitstorm occurs and they can't process it. They can't handle it.
Yep.
So
we'll end it on that note, man. I think I appreciate your time and talking about this stuff. It motivates me, because we are the future of law enforcement. Like you and I, we're 8 years in at this point, right? Just about, almost a decade. We're going to be the future sergeants, lieutenants, captains, division chiefs, possibly sheriffs.
And if we're not, we're influencing the next ones,
right? That we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if we continue to talk about this stuff, we continue to have this open line of communication and explain our experiences to the public.
Mm-hmm.
There's no confusion.
Yeah,
you know, I think it's important, and I think it's useful, man. So thank you.
Yeah. We'll have to come back and talk some more about maybe some fun stories.
Yes, we'll have you back on. We'll make a list of all the crazy shit you're allowed to talk about.
Yeah.
And we'll go through it.
All right.
Well, cool, man. Thanks, everybody.